the great input of the prophet Ezekiel in the thinking patterns of the Hebrew people was the insistence that he had that the individual soul stands or falls. And it is not just a question of a nation, a society, standing or falling, meriting or demeriting, but whatever is going on around one, the individual stands alone. That reminds me actually of a situation to which the local tradition here bears witness. Not far from the hermitage is the trace of a very puzzling case. We remember how in the past church and society was all very much intertwined, and there were privileges. One can actually sometimes see traces of that still in some churches built way back, where it would seem that certain people sat in certain places. Well, not far from here, there is the case of somebody who presumed upon his rights before God because he was of noble birth and all that went with it with regard to acquired privilege and standing. And one could presume that that would happen also in the beyond. And to show that point, make it clear, and obviously to presume that it would be the case, there was the famous, by now, situation of a knight who actually was not behaving well, but was a knight and was respected. And his actual situation became pathetic because he was in a situation of irregularity and excommunication at the moment of his death. But of course he was of a good standing. His family was a good practicing family, and he was, yes, of the noble streak of privilege. And so, of course, he would be buried in church, nevertheless. Actually, they wanted that privilege, not just outside, but in the church itself, because of his importance for the society in the local area. And so, despite the fact that he had died not with the sacraments and in a state of irregularity, he was put calmly within the precincts of the church itself. What happened? The church itself recognized the antibody. It's rather like the human body that rejects. Well, the church would not have it. I mean the physical church. And according to tradition, which one can see visibly there in what has been left for all time, the church jumped, that is to say, the wall that he was parked against inside, jumped and is now in diagonal without its foundations and is still there in that position. And the body of the knight was therefore outside the precincts after that strange event. I've been there many times because it's not far away, and I could not but think of how this notion of individual recompense is capital. Indeed, I wrote these lines when under that shock. This is a land where strange things combine their ways, where days that were live on upon the morrow's walls, where calls of thine leave not in peace a work too quickly done, and bid us not think lightly on a stone hewn once to hold a guard, where plod would yet a soul not blessed or shriven, that could not own a place on earth or sky. Nay, we forget that moments linger long yond this long wall that severs time asunder. Blunders here cost aeons of old hurt that aye shall call from age to dawning age, where little fear is known, where known is little of the blaze swift kindled, yet ne'er dwindled in its days. The way that we have managed to cancel the notion of recompense and its reverse is actually not just philosophical, social, or human. It's diabolical. We need to be aware that as it has been shown clearly in cases of exorcism where the demons have actually spoken about this, it's their conspiracy, a conspiracy of silence about the consequences. And it has been observed and heard that the less it is talked about, the more it fills up. There's an old saying, is fecit cui prodest, he did it to whom it bears an advantage. It's the way of finding out who's responsible for a crime. And so it is that if it is in the interest of you-know-who to have certain things never mentioned, then we can be sure that he's not far away. And so it is that this question is the question, and we cannot avoid it when communicating the gospel, because the gospel is good news precisely because there is bad news. Cancel the one, as some theologians, priests, bishops even would like to do, and the rest has no sense. The priesthood is there precisely because the Lord wants to save souls from the bad news. If there's no danger of bad news, there's no need for salvation. What are we saved from if there's no danger of being what? Lost, of not having the recompense, and of gaining the recompense of what we have done. And so it is that the whole teaching of Ezekiel is extremely relevant to our time. Indeed, the quotation of this ancient Christian hymn that St. Paul has here in the reading of today from Philippians is a reminder of what it cost the Lord. This emptying, this kenosis of the Lord, so that it might be enriched with his riches, is a serious business. Redemption cost terribly, terribly. And we would like to sugar the pill and at our funerals presume that it's all very easy. It's not a bit of it. And so it is that the gospel too reminds us that we can say no in our action, even though we do officially say yes. Yes means yes, and we do the Father's will concretely. We cannot say many prayers and disobey. The Lord sees, and we cannot get away from his penetrating regard ever.